Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Charlotte Finesse and I am a writer, a historian and an avid book reader. My channel is full of content such as writing, day in the life of a writer videos, reading reviews, history content, lots of different kind of history, heritage, writing, reading content. So I really hope that you like that kind of stuff. And if you're a long-time viewer and you're back again for a new video, Happy New Year. I hope you had a lovely holiday. So this video is my 2021 reading roundup, and we're going to be looking at all the different books that I read, and then I'm just going to be picking out one or two of my favourites. I'm going to keep this quite short because I know that my reading content isn't always the most popular on this channel, but it's something that I'm really passionate about, so I'm going to do it anyway. So 2021 was a difficult year for me in terms of reading, and I don't know if anybody else has this, but I found this last year really difficult to read. There were periods where I didn't read at all for like 2 or 3 months. I've had a busy year in terms of work, but I think it was more than that. I think last year my mental health really struggled. There was so much kind of ebbs and flows of work, and from kind of May until October I was absolutely flat out with work, and so I just didn't get any opportunity to read. That being said, I do have quite a pile here, and a lot of people will look at this pile and say that is a lot of books to read in a year. But for me, it's really not. It feels like quite a lull. So I just wanted to explain that really, because it has been a bit of an odd year. That being said, the books that I have chosen to read have been very much within my comfort zone. I've read books that I know are going to be fulfilling for me. Books are my escape. If I'm having a bad mental health time, if I'm stressed, if I'm worried, books help me to escape the present, and I go to different places. And my favourite series of books is the C.J. Sansom books set in Tudor London, and they really allow me to escape, and I absolutely love those. So I've read a couple of those throughout the year, but I'm not going to include them in this list because I've talked about those in previous videos. So yeah, I tend to choose books that are historical, and that can completely take me away from my current time period. So you'll see that quite a lot reflected in this list. I am sorry, there's not a lot of cultural diversity in my book list this year. I have a very diverse bookshelf, or a growing diverse bookshelf. It wasn't always this way, but I've been working really hard to try and improve the diversity of my bookcase. And I've got quite a few on my reading list that I'm intending to read in 2022. But as I say, I've kind of been almost on survival mode in 2021 with my reading. So that's reflected, and I hope you don't think too bad of me. I tried my best in 2020, and I was really proud of my kind of widening of my reading interest in 2020. And I hope to do the same again this year in 2022. So let's go on to looking at the books. Now, if I'm looking down here, it's because I've got all of the books in a pile down at my side. So the first series that I read, I actually don't have copies of because I've sent them to the charity shop. One of the things that I am trying to do is I'm really trying to get rid of the random piles of books that I have around the house. I have lots of piles of books that are just, they don't have a home because all my bookshelves are full. And so I'm trying to kind of read those books that they've been in my house for months, years in some cases, and I'm not sure I'm going to keep them. So I'm trying to read them and then rehome them at the charity shop. And one of those was a 3-book series by Elizabeth Chadwick on the life of Eleanor of Aquitaine. So yeah, I read this series. I kind of read them back to back, to be honest. And it follows the entire life of Eleanor of Aquitaine from, I think she's like in her teens or early kind of teens when the books start. And the book series actually finishes with her death. Now, if you don't know, Eleanor of Aquitaine is quite a famous British queen. She initially was married to a French king. They divorced, and then she married Henry the second. Can't remember. I'm pretty crap with my early Henrys. I can't remember them. Anyway, she married Henry in England, and they had many children together. And it's kind of her life. She had a very difficult kind of life of struggling to assert herself as a woman in what was a hugely male-dominated world. It's set in Eleanor of Aquitaine is an actual historical character. The books are historical fiction, we should say, because Chadwick does reinvent things like dialogue and scenes and thoughts of the characters, which obviously we don't know. So it charts her life, it charts her struggles, and I liked them. I really did like them, and I've always loved Elizabeth Chadwick. She's been like one of my favourite authors for a very long time. She first got me into historical fiction when I was writing my undergraduate dissertation on reimagining women's stories through historical fiction. I actually emailed her to ask her about her experience of researching historical fiction, and she really kindly emailed me back. So I've always been a fan of her, and so I was really keen to read those books. I'm not sure I would read them again, just because I think once you've slogged through Eleanor of Aquitaine's story once, it's probably enough. I do have up here somewhere, I can't find it, somewhere up on the bookshelf behind me, I have got the Alison Weir, Eleanor of Aquitaine. Oh, it's down there actually. It's down there, I can see it, which is the kind of non-fiction version of her life. I am thinking of dabbling into that just to learn a little bit more about her from a non-fiction perspective, but I have got a huge non-fiction to be read pile this year, so I might not do that for a while. So that was first. I can't really remember what order I read the others in, so that was the beginning of the year, and I know what my last book that I read was, but in and amongst it all gets a bit jumbled, so I hope you'll forgive me. The next book I'm going to show you is actually a full series of books, so bear with me. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, there we go. You can't actually see me. So I'll just hold the books up for a second and then I'll show you what they're about. So I'm hoping you can see all of those. So this is the Seven Sisters collection by Lucinda Riley. I should probably put them like that actually. That would be a better way of doing it, wouldn't it? Can you see them? I'm going to put them down because they're quite heavy. They are hefty books. So that's the first book, The Seven Sisters by Lucinda Riley. And as you can see, it's quite a chunky tome, and they only get bigger as they go along. And this book series was recommended to me by Tom's mum, Alison, who had read them all and had been telling me for a really long time about this book series that she'd read, that she really enjoyed, and she thought I would love it. And I was like, oh yeah, sounds good, it sounds good. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I've got loads of books to read. I know what I want to read, this, that and the other. Anyway, we went to Portugal in the summer and I didn't take any books with me. And normally what I do whenever I go on holidays, I pack, and then I pack about 6 books. But I didn't. I decided not to because I thought I'll source books when I'm over there. And so I picked up this Seven Sisters series and I read the first one. And I think I read the first one in about 2 days, which I was on holiday, so I think that's fine. And I absolutely loved it. And so I think we were there for 10 days and I read that one. I read that one. No. And I read that one. And basically what they are is a story about 7 women who were adopted by a man called Purcell. The reason I kind of really liked it to start off with is because Purcell and the girls, they all lived in a mansion on Lake Geneva, and we used to live near Geneva for a very short period of time. And so I was like, oh, it's Geneva. The island that they describe in the book is fictional. There is no island on Lake Geneva, but it was very beautiful, the scenery and the setting and this, that and the other. So these 7 girls were all adopted at birth or very shortly after birth. So they were tiny babies, and Purcell adopted all 6 of them. 6, not 7. Bear that in mind. He adopted 6 girls and brought them all back to his home and named them after the 7 sisters of the star cluster. I think the 7 sisters of the Pleiades, I think is how you pronounce it. And it's a star cluster near Orion's belt. And he named all of them. So they've got really cool names like Ali for Alcyone, Solano, what else is there? Asterope, and they all have their own like little nicknames. So there's like Ale and Cece and Star. So they've all got like nicknames. But each book is, so basically right at the beginning of the 7 sisters, Purcell dies and leaves each of the sisters a clue as to their heritage and their origins, where they come from, who their parents might be. And each book is a different sister's story. And that sister uses the clues left by Purcell to explore their heritage, and they go to different places. Sorry, I'm doing a voiceover at this point because I rambled on about where all the different women go to. So I'm sorry, I've cut all of that out and I'm making it very clear. So each of the women go to different places around the world, and the first book's set in Rio de Janeiro, second book's set in Norway, the third one's set in England. So they really go all the way around the world with these women, exploring their heritage. Obviously, each woman goes to the country that is associated with their birth. So I just wanted to clear that up rather than giving you a really long, rambly clip of video. So there's 6 sisters, but there are 7 stars. And throughout the series, they're always talking about this missing sister, which is the 7th sister, the 7th baby that never actually showed up. He never adopted a 7th baby to complete the star set. And so it's all about, oh, who's the missing sister? There is a 7th book about the missing sister. I'm only on book 5 of 7 at the moment. And like I say, I've only just started book 5. So I'll let you know how I get on this year with finishing that series. But I highly recommend it. The 7 Sisters series by Lucinda Riley. Now, sadly, Lucinda Riley, the author, recently died of cancer, I believe. And so her son is finishing off the very last book, which I think the last book is the 8th book in the series. And I think that's titled Purcell, and it tells Purcell's story. So he's going to be finishing that book off in memory of his mum, which I think is lovely, but incredibly sad as well. So yes, that was that series. And I've actually worked my way through those 5 books throughout this year. Moving on, I read The Secret by the Lake by Louise Douglas. Now, I did actually review this on my Instagram, so I'm not going to talk about this for very long. But this was one of those kind of random books I read the back of when I picked it up from a library for like 20p or something, and thought, yep, that'll do. Took it home with me and didn't read it for months. And so it's part of that kind of picking up and thinking, am I going to read this again? Reading through it, yes, I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm going to read this book again, but I am going to read more by Louise Douglas because I really enjoyed her writing style. So that's going to go to the charity shop now that I've put it in a video. And yeah, that can be rehomed to someone nice. In fact, I'm planning something quite exciting for February for the International Day of Book Giving, International Book Giving Day. So I might put that in a pile for that one. The next book I read was The Shape of Darkness by Laura Purcell. Oh, you guys, I don't need to wax lyrical anymore about Laura Purcell. You know how much I love her. Absolutely love her writing. I aspire to be anything similar to Laura Purcell as a writer, and this book did not disappoint at all. I obviously read, you know that I've read everything by her, and I loved what was the first one called? The Silent Companions. Love The Silent Companions. I absolutely adore The Corset. It's one of the best books I've ever read. And then I read Bone China, and I was a bit like, It was good and I enjoyed it, and I loved the kind of historical aspect of tuberculosis treatment and that kind of thing, but the fairies were a bit much for me. I couldn't quite get my head around like the magic of it, which is stupid because I love Harry Potter books, but for some reason it didn't quite work for me. So when this came out, I was really happy to kind of dive in and see what it was like, and it was a beautiful book. It's about a woman who creates these silhouettes in, again, set like in the Victorian period, and believing that by making these silhouettes, she's kind of causing the deaths of the people who she's doing. It's a little bit similar to The Corset. The only thing I'm a little bit disappointed with was this, is it didn't have a beautiful book cover. So with the other two, they were hardbacks like this, but they were like kind of recessed and cut into the cardboard, whereas this is just a plain kind of dust jacket. So that was a bit disappointing. I kind of hoped that they would go with the same theme. Maybe they have on other versions. This was like I bought this as soon as it came out. So maybe that's that. But excellent. If you like Laura Purcell and you're fed up of hearing me talk about her and you haven't actually read her books, then go and read one and then you'll know what I'm talking about. Now, the next book I read is a new author that I have discovered and I have fallen in love with as well. So this is The Devil in the Marshalsea by Antonia Hodgson. And Antonia Hodgson, I don't know where you've been all my life, but sorry about that. Somebody came to the door and now somebody else is like mowing or like cutting trees or a hedge down. So I've got all the windows shut, so hopefully you can't hear that. But if you can hear a little bit of an annoying like droning sound in the background, I am sorry. But this video has been delayed by about 25 minutes now because somebody came to the door, then my shopping arrived. So I'm just going to cut back into it. I'm sorry if like the framing has gone a little bit different. I've tried to kind of keep my tripod in the same space. But yes, I think I'd literally just said, Antonia Hodgson, where have you been all my life? And that statement still rings true. Yeah, I'd picked up think I might pick this one up first. So I've talked before about one of the clients that I work for is based in a library building, and when I go they have like a cart of books outside the main door and you can pick them up for like 20p a copy. And so not so much in 2021, was it 2019 maybe? Yeah, it'd be pre-pandemic when I used to go into the office a lot. I always used to come back with like 2 or 3 books, and this was one of them, and it's The Devil in the Marshalsea by Antonia Hodgson. And I didn't read it from 2019 until maybe like October, November time this year. And it was one that I really wanted to read because it's very much like C.J. Sansom. It's a historical fiction book, and it's actually set in London in 1727 at the Marshalsea prison. Very different from the Marshalsea in Little Dorrit, just so that you know. But it's like the earlier Marshalsea prison that came before that one, and it's a murder mystery, and it's very, very much Shardlake-like. So if you've read the C.J. Sansom Shardlake books and you really like it, you will love this. Antonia Hodgson is an excellent writer. She's done so much historical research that it just flows so seamlessly within the book. It creates a really vivid setting. You know that it's like historically accurate. It's just a really brilliant book, and it's excellently written as well. So this is the first in a series with a character called Thomas Hawkins, I think. Tom Hawkins. So this is the first in the series. The next one is called The Confessions of Thomas Hawkins. And then The Last Confession of Thomas Hawkins, I think that one's called. And then there's this one up here, which is called A Death at Fountains Abbey. And there's another one, and I've got them all just basically by accident, really. I ended up with all 4 books in the series. So I've got another 2 to read, and I've read this first one, and I almost started reading the next one straight away after I finished this one because I loved it so much. But then I took a break again, like I say. It's almost like I'm getting to the end of reading a single book at the moment and needing like a break to recover, which is weird. I've never been like that before. So I'm hoping that 2022 I don't feel like that. But yeah, highly recommend that one. Excellent book. The next I read, I highly recommend as well, is The Familiars by Stacey Halls. Now, so many people have talked about this book and raved about this book, and I knew I wanted to read it for a really long time, and I actually put it in a reel that I did on Instagram of a load of books that I bought from The Works. I think it was like in the summer or something like that. I'm going to continue to work through that stack of books this year, but this one is one that I couldn't wait for. I was desperate to read this one. And it's set in Lancashire, which I'm in Yorkshire, but it's very close, in 1612. And it's basically around the Pendle witch trials. And it's just amazing. I mean, I know the main setting for the book is at Gawthorpe Hall, which I know because it's a historic house that's very close to where I live. And I obviously know about the Pendle witch trials. I think most British people know about the Pendle witch trials, but if you're a northerner, you know about them even more. And it's basically a series of events that happened in the early 1600s where a group of women were accused of witchcraft and they were hung. And it's a really interesting book. I think Fleetwood Shuttleworth, I think she is a historical character, but I think a lot of the kind of like things that she goes through as part of this book have been kind of like fictionalized to fit in with the kind of history of the place. Absolutely brilliant book. The only thing I would say about it is that some of the stuff that Fleetwood gets up to, I was like, would a woman in the 1600s really do that? Like, she like goes off on her own a lot, and I don't know, maybe they would. I think the whole point of this book is that she starts off very kind of prim and proper, and she's working on, she's just at the house all the time, and she's married to this husband who, he's nice, but he's a bit like overly protective of her, and he's a bit absent, he's working, all this, that and the other. And then as she goes along, she kind of slowly almost slips into the madness of witchcraft mania. And so I think that's why she probably does more that's a bit reckless towards the end. But yeah, very, very interesting. If you are triggered by baby loss and that kind of thing, maybe don't read it because it has quite a lot of kind of child baby pregnancy loss in it. So just a bit of a trigger warning if that's something that you are triggered by. And yeah, but other than that, I think it's a really, really good book. I really enjoyed reading that. So the other book that I read, which I don't have, but I'll put a little picture of it up, is The Phone Box at the Edge of the World. And like I say, this was a stack of books that I bought from the works, about a real phone box, which is in Japan, high up on a mountain. And it's a place where people who are grieving go to talk to their loved ones. Now, this is a real place in Japan. The author told us about it at the end of the book. And you go into the phone box and you pick up the phone. It's called a wind phone, and you talk to your loved ones, and supposedly sometimes they can talk back to you. And it's like kind of a place where the kind of film between the living and the dead is supposed to be quite narrow, so you can commune with like your lost loved ones. And the book itself follows a main character, a female, and another male, and it's kind of a bit of a love story between the two of them, but it's also about how they individually manage their grief. It's just really beautifully written, really beautifully written. It has these amazing passages where the writer will be telling a story about something that happened in the character's past. And then there'll be like a page where it'll be like, these are the songs that the characters were listening to during this time in their, like this hour of their lives. So it's weird because it's like, you hear this whole story about something that they've done. It then gives you the songs that they listened to when they were dancing around the kitchen. So you can almost like properly take yourself into the book by listening to the music. Or at one point she talks about like packing up a lunchbox, I think, for the man. And I think she talks about like packing up the lunchbox or something as part of the chapter. And then it lists all the things that were in the lunchbox. So I guess if you wanted to, you could go and like recreate that lunchbox. And yeah, just little things like that. I thought it was a really unusual way to write a book. It was almost like mixed media. In, you know, like in art, you get mixed media of using loads of different kind of paints and techniques and materials and stuff. It was almost like that, but in writing. And I thought that was fascinating. It was really, really interesting. Again, trigger warning, if you are triggered by loss of a loved one, or if you've been through a traumatic event where you've lost somebody, you might find it a bit too much, because it is very emotional as a book. But it is a beautiful book if you do want to read it. Right, moving on to the last one. The last book that I read in 2021 actually was a didn't finish, which I rarely don't finish books. And I have tried and tried and tried to read this over and over again. And I will get to the end of it this month. And I will, because I don't want to miss it. But I read it and I've put it down. And then I started reading it again and I've put it down. And it is The Muse by Jessie Burton. Now, this really surprised me because I've got The Miniaturist by her. And whilst I don't think it was like my favourite historical fiction book, there were elements of it that I thought were absolutely fantastic. And I thought the story was so unique. And so when I read the back of The Muse, I thought, well, that's exactly the same. It's unique, it's different. And I can't tell you why I haven't finished it, which is even more frustrating in some ways, because I'd really love to be able to tell you what's wrong with it. I don't think there is anything wrong with it. I think I was having a conversation with somebody on Instagram actually, because they didn't finish The Miniaturist, or a different book. Anyway, by a similar author. It was either by Jessie Burton or it was by a similar author. And we were talking about it and we were saying that sometimes it's a good book, but it comes to you at the wrong time. So sometimes you'll start reading a book and it just doesn't resonate with you for whatever reason. And I think that's what happened with this. I think it was just the wrong time. I've already said to you that I've been struggling with like reading and concentrating this year. And I think that this book just came to me at the wrong time. I've got, as you can see, over halfway through it. So I'm going to persevere and I am going to I'm going to read the rest of it. But yeah, just didn't quite sit with me this time. Yeah, so the main character, it's set in the 60s, and the main character, Odelle Bastien, is from Trinidad, and she's living in London. I think she's been there for a few years, and is an aspiring writer. It's got all of the things that you think that I would absolutely love. So I really don't know why it didn't hit. And it basically follows Odelle's journey of learning to become a writer, and she meets this amazing woman called Marjorie Quick, who almost becomes a bit like a mentor to her. But then it flicks back in time to 1936, so it goes back about 30 years. Yes, it flicks back about 30 years, and about a painting and like the history of the painting and this, that and the other. Again, flicking back in time. You think it would be perfect. So yeah, I would recommend it because Jessie Burton is an excellent writer. I follow her on Instagram and I'm excited to read more from her. I just don't think it sat well with me this year, that's all. So I will be finishing that off. So that's it. I've tried to keep that as quick as I can. I realise that I've gone into a little bit more detail than I've maybe initially planned to, but I hope that you've kind of been interested in following along. I'm not going to be doing massive reading and book review videos on YouTube, just because they performed the worst across my channel. And whilst I enjoy doing them, I enjoy talking about the books I've read, there's no point in me spending loads and loads of time putting book review videos together if nobody's actually really interested in reading them. So I'll probably do one every now and again. I had thought about doing like spring, summer, autumn, winter reads, so I might do that. But I'm also trying not to overcommit to things, because that's another thing I've learned this year, is that I overcommit and underdeliver on my YouTube channel. So I'm not going to do that anymore. So I hope you enjoyed this review video. If you do want to see more, and you are the small percentage of people that enjoy my book review videos, let me know. Let me know what you're going to read this year, and I will be back very shortly with another video. Take care and stay safe, and I'll see you soon.